Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And on this episode, we are going to recap This Is Us, Season 1, Episode 16, which was titled A Road Trip. So let me just get this disclaimer out of the way. By the end of this episode, I was boohoo crying. And I may start crying again as I try to go through this. But we're going to get through this together, so let's get started. So when the show opens up, William is reflecting over his father and, well, actually he was reflecting over his life throughout the whole show. And so basically his father was in the military and he left to go off to war while his mom was pregnant with William. And while he was over there, he was killed. And so they have a scene where, the mom goes to answer the door, and it was, the two military police there to let her know that her husband has died. And so she gives birth to William, and raises him alone, but she must have been very protective of him because by the time William became an adult, he was very codependent on his mom. And then it came a time when her mother became ill. And so William grew up in Memphis, and I think the mom was from Philadelphia. Yeah, I think it's Philadelphia where he was found. But anyway, she had to go up north to see about her mom. And while she was there, her mom actually passed away. But then she liked it so much that she decided to stay. And so when she was getting ready to leave, William was telling her, well, I can come and go with you. But you can tell that she realized that she wasn't helping him to become an independent man, so she made him stay in Memphis and fend for himself. And William was a musician, and he had a cousin that worked at this club, and so they had a band, and they would perform at the club. And so she was telling him, stay with Ricky, he'll help you out and give you whatever you need. And so after her mom passed away, she decided to stay in Philadelphia, and she called William to let him know that she had gotten a job, and she was going to settle in there. And so William was basically like, well, I'll come, to Philadelphia and live with you. But she was like, no, you're doing okay there, so stay there. So I think she kind of knew that she needed to separate herself from William and help him become a man, but she also didn't want him to come to Philadelphia because he would still be codependent upon her. So back in the present time, we find out that after last week's episode, that Randall, he had that nervous breakdown and he was actually hospitalized for about 5 days. So him and Beth are in with the doctor, and Randall is telling the doctor that William wants to go on a road trip. He wants to go back to Memphis and show Randall where he's from and introduce him to whatever family members are still there. But Beth is totally against it, and she's like, you're not ready. You just got out of the hospital. And so Randall convinces the doctor that it is the best thing for him and that it'll be good therapy because he'll get to learn about something about himself that he didn't know before. And the doctor agrees with Randall, and so him and William prepare to go on their road trip. And one thing I thought was funny was that when Randall and Beth were in with the doctor and then they were talking afterwards, and then the scene where they go back to the house and it was just, as all this was going on, they were playing this like African tribal type music. So I guess that was supposed to be like a correlation to going back to your roots and finding out your history. I just thought it was a little odd, but we're going to roll with it. So before they leave on the trip, William goes in and he wakes up the girls and tells them, that he's getting ready to leave and that, he loves them and that they're going to be okay. And so, the girls are like, okay, love you and everything. So, they go outside, and so Beth is trying to tell Randall, okay, be safe, drive carefully. But while she's talking, Randall puts the car in reverse and rolls back out of the driveway. And Beth is looking at him like, oh my God, like, please send my man back home. So while they're on the road, Randall opens up to William about, his anxiety, and he's basically had it all of his life. And he shares how when he was a little kid and he would have his panic attacks, that Jack would put like both of his hands on his face and look him straight in the eye, and then he would just start breathing with him, and he would start out with the frantic breathing, and then Randall would calm down. So then Jack's breathing would slow down. And that was how, he dealt with the anxiety. And so William, wants to know more about Jack. And we learned that when Jack died, that he was cremated, and that Kate has the ashes, but they did take some of the ashes and they spread them around some tree, I guess, that Jack really liked. So then William says that he wants to go and pay his respects. So Randall is like, okay, well, we can do that when we come back. And William is like, no, I want to do it now. And I'm getting teary-eyed. Sorry about that. And so he goes, so they turn around and they go to the tree where the ashes were spreaded. And so there was like a bench in front of the tree. And William sits down on the bench and he's pretty much talking to Jack and thanking Jack, for raising Randall and doing such a good job. And that, he was the best father that Randall could have ever had. And I thought that was really nice. And he just kind of like sits there and reflects for a minute. We have another flashback scene with William, and he's at the bar, and in this band that his cousin has, William actually played the piano. And so he had been writing songs, and he tells his cousin, that he finally finished some of the songs, and he gave it to the cousin, and the cousin looked over it and he was like, man, it's about time. And so he goes back to the band and they start rehearsing some of the songs, and they were really good and they became popular, and they started going out on like sort of like a little small Chitlin tour where they were going to the local clubs and whatever performing, and it really elevated their status in the area. Back in the present, they make it to Memphis, and their first stop is to the house that William grew up in. And so they were sitting on the side of the road, and there was what used to be a doorway on the back side of the house, and it was like a red brick house. But someone had taken the door out and covered the entryway with bricks. And so William was sitting there reflecting on why would they have done that. And so I think this was at the point where Randall told him that once he graduated from college, he had like this really big afro and he was living free and everything. And then he decided, when he went into corporate America, or was it when he met Beth, but at some point in time in his life, he decided to grow up and shave his afro off and, become a family man and be, really career driven. And so William kind of correlates that to the door being bricked up for some reason. So anyway, William decides that he wants to go into the house, although there are people living there. So Randall gets out the car and he goes up and knocks on the door and explains to the people, that his father is dying and this was the house that he grew up in. And he just wanted to, come in and look around. So the people were very accommodating and they let William come in. So William walks in the house and he goes to the fireplace, and it had like this brick mantle. And so he pulls a loose brick out of the mantle, and the people look at there like, okay, we didn't tell you come in our house and start tearing up stuff. But behind the brick was this little satchel, like a little small drawstring bag, and it had these little miniature toys in it. And so they were toys that I guess he used to play with as a kid, and he had put them in this wall. So he takes the satchel out and walks out of the house. And so Randall has to apologize to these people. He gives them the brick, and they was just looking at him like, okay, I need y'all to go. Next, they go to a barber shop, I guess, that William used to get his hair cut at. And then he takes Randall over to these water fountains, and he says that they used to be whites only water fountains. So, Randall drinks out of the water fountain. And just like Miss Jane Pittman in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, he realized that the water tastes the same. It's no different whether it comes out the colored fountain or the white fountain. So the next stop is to the bar, and I think it was called Melvin's. Yeah, I think it was called Melvin's. So when they go into the bar, his cousin Ricky is sitting in the bar in the same seat he was sitting in when, I forgot to mention that William's mom became ill. She had cancer or something, and she sent for William to come and see about her. And so William, he told Ricky that he had to leave, but he would be back, as soon as he got everything straight with his mom. And so Ricky had given him some money, and told him don't worry about it, just use the money, for his traveling and whatever he needed. So when they walk into the club, Ricky is sitting in that same seat he was sitting in when the night that Randall told him he had to leave. And guys, I keep getting William and Randall mixed up, and I have to stop and go back. So if I do it and I don't catch it, know that I know who I'm talking about. I just keep getting the names mixed up. So when they go into the bar, Ricky is sitting at the bar in the same spot he was sitting in when William told him he had to leave and go see about his mom. And he isn't happy to see William and pretty much tell William to get out of the club, and leave him alone. So we find out that Ricky is still angry with William because William never came back after he went to see about his mom. And even when his mom passed away, he never came back, never called or anything. So he had waited all these years, to hear something from William, and he just wants to know what happened. So William went to see his mom as planned, but as soon as he got there, she let him know that it wasn't going to be long. She was in the final stages of cancer or whatever she was sick with. And so she tells him that she has to take a nap, but for him to go out, catch the bus, and explore the city. And when he gets back, she'll be up and able to greet him properly. So he gets on the bus, and there he meets Randall's mom, and her name was Laurel. And if you remember my recap, can't remember what episode, it might have been like episode 10, where we actually have the scene where William meets Randall's mom, and they're on the bus. And I think it was the scene where he actually takes the baby and abandons him at the firehouse. And I think that episode was called Kyle, because we found out that Randall's name, they had named him Kyle. And then they were told that the reason Randall was, having these issues was because he didn't have his own identity. So go back and check out that episode. It was really good. So I guess a woman can make you forget about where you came from, because Laurel was a partier and William was smitten with her, and she got him introduced to the streets, and that is why he forgot about Ricky and never went back home. So it was his mom's death that actually led him to using drugs. So Laura had already introduced him to the partying scene, so he was so upset about the mom passing away that he started using drugs. And plus, that was Laurel's lifestyle. And, of course, he wanted to hold on to her. So William apologizes to his cousin and pays him back the money that he had gave him all those years ago. And William also let him know that he was dying, and he didn't have long to live. And so Ricky asked him, was he too sick to play? And William said no, he could give it a try. And then in the next scene we have where they've invited, all this family and friends. And so Randall is getting to know all his cousins, and he's drinking and carrying on. And so then he calls Beth. And so, he's telling them that everything is better with Beth on it. I was just like, oh my Lord. And so then Beth, she's asking him like, are you drunk? But he was just two sheets to the wind, and he ended up hanging up the phone. So the following morning, William is in crises, and he has to be rushed to the hospital. And so Randall, is saying that he can hire a medevac to come and get William and take him back, home, so he can, be taken care of there and die at home. He didn't want him to die in Memphis. And so the doctor lets him know that William only has hours left, and Randall is like really in denial, and he's saying that, he'll call Beth and get Beth to come home with the kids and everything. But the doctor is like, he literally only has a couple of hours left, and he's never leaving this hospital, so you need to come to terms with it. So William knew that he was going to die, and he just wanted to get back home to Memphis and, be with his family and not be any more of a burden on Randall as far as dealing with the funeral and all that stuff. So he gives Randall that book of poetry that he used to read and write in when he was with Laurel on the bus. And he lets him know that, you know, he doesn't want Beth or the girls to come, that he said his goodbyes before they left to go on the trip. So he lets William know that he deserves everything in the world, that he was proud of him. And so, like now, I want to cry. And I think the reason I'm so emotional is because Randall was so emotional. I mean, they did such a good job on this final scene. And so I was thinking, you know, there's nothing harder than being with your parent when they take their last breath. Because when my dad died like 7 years ago, I was there with him holding his hand until the end. And it is just very emotional. And as I say at the end of all my recaps about this show, is that I love this show. It is so real. It just deals with life issues. And if you watch this show and you are not touched and you are not emotional, and if you're not thinking and not wanting to go and love on your brothers and sisters and your parents if they're still alive, then something is wrong with you. So that's it for me. Leave your comments below. Rate the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I also want to thank all my new subscribers because I'm now at 150. So I want to say thank you guys for that. And until next time, go and tell somebody that you love them. Give them a hug and have a great day. Bye-bye.